put on page 2 with a picture on it. It's $6 at Home Depot, and it's purpose-built to fit on a gas main valve, and you turn it off, it's a quarter turn, and it's off.
It's also meant to be non-sparking, correct?
That's correct, it is. So it's made out of aluminum or something that's stout.
If you grab something that's big and heavy and metal and you try and really yank at that and you create a spark on your gas line, the earthquake is not what you're going to be worried about.
Yeah, because actually, I mean, and that's actually, I mean, all of us have stone or concrete basements, right? And so you've got these iron pipes and you've got this iron, you've got a big iron monkey wrench and you're yanking on it and it's rusted. It pops off, it hits the wall. You've got actually a good chance of making, you know, a couple sparks when you do that. So, yeah, so having a non-sparking wrench is important. This thing's $6. It's made for specifically turning off gas valves. There's no good reason not to just take it and duct tape it to your gas meter. I mean, that way it's always there. You know, if you don't have to be worrying around or running around worrying, you know, after when you're trying to get the gas shut off with an emergency gun. Oh God, what did I do with it? Oh wait, it's in the bathroom because we had an overflow and I had to change out a pipe last week. Just keep it on the gas meter. It's super cheap insurance. This is, oh.
But if you turn off your gas in winter, then with no heat, won't your pipes freeze and explode?
Well, they might, but I mean, we're talking short term, like something bad has happened.
If you have an
and the gas
earthquake
has
or
to be turned
something, you
off
have to turn it off.
Yeah,
and
don't
it'll
just do it for
explode.
heck.
Yeah.
If you smell gas,
Siren?
get out of here.
Yeah, if you smell gas, it needs to be turned off, and the pipe's freezing is the lesser of your concerns at the time.
Sure.
Smoke detectors. I mean, that's it sounds dumb to say. A lot of people don't. I mean, I think actually, after writing this, probably one of my smoke detectors is not working right now. It's the one in my basement. I should probably go and change the battery. If you can, if you go to Walmart, they have they have fire extinguishers for for $10, $12. You should have one in the bedroom. You know, I mean, if you smell smoke in the middle of the night, you're not going to know where it is. If you have some sort of extinguisher in the by the bed that you can get to, you're going to be a lot better off wherever you have to go in the house if you find a fire.
Remember when they expire too? Those little can fire extinguishers, they're not good forever. You can get some water. They're not good forever.
The little disposable ones with like the little plastic heads on them.
They'll probably still work, but it just doesn't put a fire lit.
That's actually was going to be one of my projects. I've got some 5-year-old ones I was going to pop and see how much I get out of it. One thing that a lot of people that get a fire extinguisher will put it next to the oven or next to the stove and think, hey, this is great. It's a good idea to have a fire extinguisher in the kitchen. It's not a good idea to put it next to the stove. Because if you get a big grease fire, you may have oil all over the place. You may not be able to get right up to the stove to grab your fire extinguisher. So if you have one, you should put one in the kitchen, you should put it across the kitchen, nearest the exit, and not next to the stove. If you have a gas furnace, it's a good idea to put one downstairs in the basement where you can get to it, preferably by the stairwell so you can snag it on your way down. A lot of the cheap disposable ones actually come with like a little 2-screw wall mount, so you can just put it right there on the post next to the stairs. Flashlights. Flashlights seem like a no-brainer, but a lot of people have 1 or 2 lights, and they're good. 4 lights is better than 2 lights. I mean, I actually like to have one in every room of the house, and they're so cheap. Why not? I mean, you can get the little 5-packs for like $10 now. Most importantly, know how to get out of your house in a hurry, and think about the times when it's going to be better off for you to do so than to stay inside and deal with whatever's happening in there. If there's an earthquake, you need to get out. If there's a fire, you need to get out. You don't need to be thinking about what do I need to get before I get out of this house. You need to have a plan in advance to think, this is the stuff that I have to have, whether it's a bag of my personal documents, whether it's, my bag that has all my stuff in it, whether it's the kids, the cats, get them and go. But you need to think about this stuff before it happens so that you're not caught flat-footed when it does and wondering what to do.
Brings a good question. Everyone lives in this neighborhood, right? If there was a big earthquake, I'm talking a major earthquake, where all the houses became unstable, we're all in brick houses, not safe to be in the house, the streets are clogged, you can't drive anywhere, things are falling, we're getting after tremors. Where in the neighborhood would you go?
Park.
Grove Park.
McDowell Park. No trees. There's no overhang. There's no gas lines that are running underneath it.
So yeah, I mean, all
So
of
you
this.
have to look for things like that in your area and kind of know where you would go. But McDonald Park is actually the place that, in this neighborhood, that's where you would go.
All of us live in 60, 70, 80-year-old masonry brick houses, and not hardly any of them have steel reinforcement. The ones that have the steel rods from them had the little stars stolen off 50 years ago. So, I mean, you know, in an earthquake, it's going to be probably bad for most of us.
You might want to start keep stores.
Yeah, those aren't the right stars. They don't quite work like that. Yeah, I mean, I used to tell people, you know, in the event of an earthquake, my primary plan is to get out of the house in under 30 seconds. My alternate plan is to die under 500 tons of masonry rubble.
There you go. Yeah.
So, communications. You know, when something goes wrong, you want to be able to find out what's going wrong. You want to be able to tell your loved ones that you're okay or find out whether they're okay. Cell phones are obviously the go-to solution for most people here. People should be advised cell phones sometimes don't work. They definitely don't work if they don't have juice. One of the cooler things that I've seen recently is I put a picture of it on page 3. You can buy these little emergency cell phone charger kits that work with pretty much any cell phone ever made, and they run off a AA or two, and they're like 15 bucks. And you can take a totally dead cell phone and pop a AA in one of these things and have it charged up and working in a couple hours. These are one of these things that are nice to have in an emergency kit. So, you know, just if the power goes out for a long time and your house has no power, your cell phones are going to be out, you know, not have any power after a while. If you have one of these, you can get your phone back up and running, and depending on how many batteries you have, how many AA's you have, you can charge it, you know, as long as you have a supply of batteries.
The other thing with cell phones too, again, if it's a serious emergency, again, talking a major flood, earthquake, tornado, you're not going to be able to dial out. The network's going to be busy. One thing you can do with cell phones is you can send a text and it will queue up. That text will eventually get there. As breaks happen in the network, they'll go through.
That was one of the interesting things that came out of Katrina was that people were immediately jamming the cell phone network with a couple of voice calls because all the landlines were flooded and all the phone company stations were all non-functional. And so it was like New Orleans was basically one big busy signal for 3 months. But people found that they could still send text messages pretty reasonably. And I mean, there's a bunch of boring technical reasons why that works, but suffice to say that it does work. And even when the system is overloaded with voice calls, text messages still go right through. They may take 10 or 15 minutes as opposed to 2 seconds, but they'll get there, and they'll probably be your most reliable form of communications, provided you have power for your device.
Did you say where they sell those emergency chargers?
I found this one on the internet. I Googled for cell phone battery charger, and this was the first hit that
I've
came
seen them
up.
at Walmart,
Yeah.
I've seen them at Target.
I've seen them at Walgreens.
Yeah, Walgreens too. It's true.
Okay.
Yeah, they're usually in the impulse buy section.
Now, if I could make a recommendation for when you look at one of these, if you see one for $6 that works with a Sony phone, and then they sell another one for $6 that works with a BlackBerry, you may want to skip it and get the one that costs $5 more that has connectors for everything. Because, you know, if you guys change cell phones like I change cell phones, you know, you're just going to be
You
buying
mean break cell phones like you
Yeah,
did?
or lose them. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. But I mean, you know, there's nothing more annoying than having to go out and buy all this stuff again. So if you buy it once the first time and get the maximum flexibility, then you just won't have to buy it again. A list of emergency numbers. If your cell phone doesn't work, you know, like I don't know her phone number off the top of my head. I don't know his phone number off the top of my head. And the cell phone has really made me stupid that way. I just don't remember phone numbers anymore. That's why having a paper list and a paper record of all the important numbers you need in your life is super. It's even more important now than it used to be, just because none of us memorize these stupid numbers anymore. Lastly, some form of radio. I found the last thing that I took a picture, or that I got a picture of on here, is it's an AM/FM weather radio that actually has a cell phone charger, and it's got a little crank on it that you could just sit there and crank, and you put juice in your phone, and it's got like a little flashlight on it too. These things are like 30 bucks. These are at Home Depot. Yeah, they're actually super cool. It's the cell phone charger part has a little universal connector, just like the emergency one. And so and it comes with connectors for a whole bunch of different more phones. And yeah, you just plug it in it and start cranking, and you know, whenever you get bored, you stop, and then your phone has that much juice in it. It's really kind of neat. They used to make a bunch of these emergency radios that did like AM, FM, and TV. I don't recommend that anyone gets those because anyone who still has regular over-the-air TV, all the old analog TV stuff stopped working last year, or was it the spring? Yeah, regular old analog TV stopped working in the recent past. So all of these emergency radios that get TV audio no longer work. So stick with something that gets either AM/FM shortwave or AM/FM weather, or something like this. Lastly, miscellaneous stuff. Copies of your important documents. Insurance policies, your deeds, your titles, your licenses, stuff like that. Stuff that you would need if your house fell over. And nominally you want to keep that in some some packet, preferably something that won't get saturated with water, that you have by the door that you can grab if you need to get out of the house in a hurry. Because I volunteered with the Red Cross, and we work on these disaster teams. We roll around in a truck, and when someone's house burns down, we come and talk to them and give them a blanket and a voucher to stay in a hotel overnight. And when you've just lost everything you own and you're standing out in the snow in your underwear, it's kind of a pain in the butt to not remember who your insurance company is. And so if you have a document like this, or if you have a document pouch like this that has all your important stuff in it, you'll be in a much better position if you ever have to get out of your house in a hurry and you need to do something about it. Spare batteries and candles. So I've given you 2 or 3 different battery-powered things on here that don't work unless you have batteries. Buy batteries, they're cheap. You can get them at Aldi's. It's like a big brick of them like this long for $3. You can get them at Walmart. Keep them in the freezer. The freezer really does make batteries last long. Candles for when your batteries run. Candles are also cheap. I usually go and buy the ones with the little saints or the Jesus that are $1, and they actually run. Those candles will last for like a week. Yeah, those last longer than my $6 emergency candles that I bought at REI. But definitely have candles. They're a light source, and in an emergency they're a heat source, and they don't ever expire. Candles last until you set them on fire.
And they smell good. Batteries and candles.
Prescription medications is actually the last. I just want to touch on it real quick. If you need some sort of type 2 diabetes medication to keep you okay, if you have high blood pressure medication, if you have anything like that, if you have a way to get 90 days of it, like I know on my insurance plan, they would actually prefer me to mail order all my stuff instead of going to Walgreens every month. And when I mail order, they send me 3 months worth of stuff for maintenance medication. Do that, because if you can't get to Walgreens, you're going to be in a bind if you need that medicine to be okay. If you can mail order it and you've got a 2-month supply on it, you're going to be in a much better position otherwise. So that actually about wraps up the organized material that I had.
I was just going to say, all this stuff is great for disasters, and people usually think, when's the last earthquake we've had in St. Louis? How often do tornadoes hit us and things like that? But when Chris touched on writing with the American Red Cross on their disaster action teams, that's really the most common disaster most people will face is a home fire. And the American Red Cross actually recommends that you keep a good supply of this stuff in a bag that you can grab on your way out the door. That way you're not thinking about anything else other than getting out of your house in a fire. So when you have this stuff on hand, if you've ever seen a zombie movie, you know that people are always out there without what they need, basic necessities. They're wearing t-shirts in 30-degree weather, walking miles. If you had a bag with a little, fleece jacket in it, you'd be a lot more comfortable. It's the same thing when your house is on fire and you're leaving. You don't have time to think about anything else. But the next day, you're going to really appreciate a change of clothes in your size that you don't have to go out and buy. You're going to appreciate the fact that you have a duplicate debit or credit card so you can access your bank accounts, your insurance information, contact information for your friends and family. So by preparing for smaller scale disasters like house fires, you're actually doing a great job for being ready for larger scale disasters like zombies and earthquakes and crazy aliens attacking from outer space.
Gotcha.
Things like that.
I think you guys covered it. If winter months are coming up, if you feel like it, you can definitely get on our websites, the forums, anybody can go in and look through them. There's a lot of great information on there on how to prepare, especially for winter weather in the Midwest. What you need to do to your car, what to have in your car to make sure that if you do break down, you'll be safe and comfortable until help arrives or until you can get a hold of help. Same thing with your house. There's threads on animals and kids and just about anything you can imagine as far as being safe, preparing for a disaster, and also building community, which and kind of bring it back with the blood drive coming up on Saturday. Even if you can't give blood, stop by, say hi, say hi to your neighbors. We're going to be barbecuing. It should be a lot of fun.
You're into zombie movies?
Probably have some zombie movies going on, of course. For those of you who don't kind of get, when we all started this, we started to explain it. We decided to use zombies as a metaphor for, of course, anything that could come your way, any kind of disaster, any kind of stress, house fire,